I pulled into the driveway just after sunset, clutching a white pastry box in one hand and my car keys in the other. My heart was pounding so hard it echoed in my ears, and I couldn't even explain why. It had been 9 months since I'd last seen my family, longer than I'd ever gone without them. But the truth was, I'd never really left. Not emotionally, not financially. From hundreds of miles away, I'd kept their lives running, paid the bills, renewed their insurance, even had groceries delivered when Mom said she was too tired to cook. I wasn't just checking the boxes. I was showing up this time in person, with time, with presence, with gifts. The house looked the same as always. Same chipped paint, same sun-bleached lawn chairs, same crooked mailbox. But one thing stood out, a sleek black luxury car parked next to Dad's rusted old pickup. It didn't belong. Not on the street. Not with this family. I pushed open the front door and called out softly, "Hello, Mom." "Dad, Maddie." The scent of cinnamon and lemon cleaner rushed over me like a wave. It hit me hard. Memories of childhood, of coming home after school, of holidays and lazy summer afternoons. For a second, I felt like a kid again. But the moment passed. No one answered. No footsteps, no hugs, just low voices drifting from the living room. I followed the sound. They were all there. Mom sitting stiffly on the couch, her hands clutched in her lap. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, face unreadable. Maddie lounged across the armrest like she owned the place, wearing a red satin robe and lipstick way too bold for someone who supposedly ran a craft business from home. She looked up and said flatly, "Oh, you actually came." I forced a smile and held up the pastry box. "Surprise! I brought desserts from that bakery you love and gifts. Something for everyone." No one moved. Dad's jaw tensed. "You shouldn't have come, Ree." It hit me like a slap. "What?" I said, the box dipping slightly in my hand. "What are you talking about?" "You're not part of this family anymore," he said, his voice cold and final. I blinked, stunned. "What? What do you mean?" Maddie rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. We all saw this coming." Mom still wouldn't look at me. Her eyes stayed glued to her lap, like if she stared hard enough, she could disappear. "You did what needed to be done," Dad said, nodding vaguely toward the dining table. "We appreciate it. But don't come here expecting things to be the same. They're not. We've moved on." It felt like something had wrapped itself around my ribs and started to squeeze. "Moved on from me?" "To be honest," Maddie said, her voice sharp, "you're a burden." I froze. The pastry box slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft, dull thud. "I paid your mortgage," I whispered. "I covered your surgeries. I sent money every month." "That was your choice," Maddie snapped. "Don't try to guilt us about it." I looked around the room. The designer purse by Mom's chair, the diamond on Maddie's finger, the polished nails. Everything glinted with quiet betrayal. No one had said a word. No warning. Just this. Dad shrugged. "There's nothing wrong. Not anymore. Not now that you're out of the picture." My chest tightened. "Is this about money?" I asked quietly. "What happened?" Maddie smirked. "You asked too many questions. Maybe that's why no one missed you." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just left the pastry box on the floor and placed the wrapped gifts on the side table. Unopened, unwanted. By the time I got back to my car, night had fallen. But the darkness outside didn't come close to what I felt inside. Something was off, deeply wrong, and I knew I wouldn't rest until I found out what. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat alone in my apartment with the lights off, phone in hand, scrolling through years of payment confirmations and receipts. $12,000 for roof repairs, $8,700 for dental surgery, $31,000 for a Maddie emergency last spring. No explanation, just a desperate call. And I wired the money. I had trusted them completely. And now every dollar felt like a betrayal. As the sun came up, suspicion turned into something electric. I logged into the shared financial dashboard I'd set up for my parents years ago. My fingers trembled as I clicked through the tabs. Utilities, cable, insurance, groceries. Every account still active, still charged to my card. I started canceling one by one. An hour later, my phone rang. "Mom, raise," she said, her voice raspy. "The internet's out." "What's going on?" I didn't answer her question. "You called me a burden." She hesitated. "You misunderstood your father." "No," I cut her off. "I misunderstood you. You said nothing." She was silent. "I canceled everything," I said. "The money's gone. If you want to keep this circus going, call Maddie." I hung up before she could respond. That afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I Googled my sister. The top result took my breath away. Grand opening. Pure Bliss by Maddie. Luxury spa launches in Aspen Hills. Asterisk. There she was in the photo, beaming under a flower arch, champagne flute in hand, gold scissors in the other. Behind her, a glass-walled spa with mountain peaks rising in the distance. The building was valued at $4 million. No mortgage, paid in full. I pulled the property record. Owner, Madison Weston. Co-owner, Natalie Weston. My sister, my mother. They used my money. I kept digging. Found a second property, a luxury home nearby. Every cent I thought went toward keeping our family afloat had built their mountain kingdom instead. They hadn't just cut me out. They had used me to finance my own erasure. That night, a text lit up my screen. "Maddie, asterisk wow. Cutting us off like that. So immature, asterisk." My hands shook as I typed. "When you opened that spa and bought that mountain house, did your hand even tremble knowing it was my money?" The typing bubbles blinked once, then vanished. No reply. And that's when the truth sank in. Not all at once, but slowly, like something rotting beneath the surface, finally rising up. They hadn't just abandoned me. They had erased me. 2 days later, a letter arrived from the bank. Addressed to Reese Weston Enterprises, LLC. I'd never heard of it. Same name, same address, but inside were documents showing hundreds of thousands flowing through business accounts under my name. Accounts I'd never seen, never used. And at the bottom of one page, something stopped my breath. My signature next to a document, General Power of Attorney, dated 11 months ago, right after my car accident. I remembered the pain, the haze, the pills. I remembered Dad handing me a folder. "It's just insurance stuff, sweetheart. Signed here." And I had. Now my hands were shaking for a different reason. I nearly dropped the phone as I called my attorney, William Meyer. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. "They created a company in my name," I said, my voice cracking. "I think they used my signature while I was under anesthesia. There's a power of attorney, too." I never agreed to it. William's tone shifted immediately, sharpening like a scalpel. "Don't say another word over the phone. Come to my office right away. Bring everything you've got." I hung up, my fingers tingling from the adrenaline. But before I went to see William, I made a detour. There was one more person I needed to speak to, Mrs. Osborne, my parents' longtime neighbor. She always kept an eye on things, and her outdoor security cameras had a perfect view of my parents' driveway. She opened the door in a floral robe, her salt and pepper hair pinned back loosely. Her brows lifted in surprise when she saw me. "Ree? What's going on? Do you have a minute?" I asked, glancing toward her front porch camera. "I need to ask you about something. The night they came with briefcases. Do you remember that?" Her expression changed instantly. She stepped aside and gestured for me to come in. "So, it is about that," she said in a low voice, shutting the door behind us. They were acting strange. Maddie was yelling about cleaning everything up before the IRS sees it. Your dad told her to keep quiet. They looked like they were preparing for war, not a tax audit. My breath caught in my throat. That wasn't just paranoia. That was confirmation. Back in William's office that evening, I sat across from her with a pile of documents in my lap and a growing pit in my stomach. The warm light in her office did nothing to soften the harsh truth unfolding in front of me. "They've been laundering money," William said grimly, flipping through the documents with a tight jaw. "They set up a shell company under your name. They used your signature, probably from those forms you signed while medicated, and your tax ID to do it." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "So I'm tied to all of it." She met my eyes. "They committed fraud, and they used you as the foundation for it. All my life, I believed family was supposed to protect you. That love, especially between parent and child, was sacred. But by Tuesday morning, that illusion was gone, shattered." William introduced me to a forensic accountant named Russell Carter. He was a tall, pale man in a dark gray suit with sunken eyes and a voice like sandpaper. He looked like he hadn't smiled in 10 years, and somehow that made me trust him. "These aren't just sloppy mistakes," Russell said, motioning toward the printouts spread across the conference table. "These are structured schemes, phantom accounts, circular transactions, multiple layers to throw off detection." He tapped a highlighted section. "Here. Maddie Spa bought designer beauty products through your LLC. Then they laundered the profits through a second account offshore. The transfers were routed through 3 different states and a dummy holding company." I stared at the document, each number like a dagger. "So, they really did it," I whispered. "They used my name to commit a crime." Russell nodded. "And don't fool yourself. It wasn't an oversight. This was calculated, precise. That hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't just theft. It wasn't just betrayal. They had turned my identity, my trust into a weapon." Later that day, I returned to Mrs. Osborne's house. She met me at the door holding a small USB drive between 2 fingers. "I wasn't sure if this counts as legal evidence, but they weren't exactly discreet," she said. Her voice lowered. Your sister came by last week. She asked if I had any recordings from the driveway cameras." My stomach flipped. "What did you tell her?" She gave a sly, knowing smile. "That I deleted them all." I could have hugged her right there on the porch. When I handed the USB to William, she turned it over in her fingers, her face unreadable. Then she looked up at me with something darker in her eyes, something like warning. "You're not just a nuisance to them anymore, she said. "You're the threat they didn't see coming." I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't afraid. I was furious. I clenched my jaw and nodded. Then, it's about time they started to worry. With William's guidance, I filed a formal report with the authorities. Every document, every receipt, every video file, we brought it all into court. Names, dates, amounts, nothing was left out. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept. No nightmares, no guilt, just peace. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd walk away. But I was just getting started. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe to our channel. This is Revenge Scales, where justice always finds its way. See you next time. *.